This is the What Do You Know show hosted by Rio and my co-host Griff.
Yo, yo.
And on this episode, we have a very special guest, the first ever lady on the show, Miss Ahnessa Black.
Yes. Thank you for having me. I'm very, very honored to be here.
Well, thank you very much. I know it's an honor for us as well. How you doing, Griff?
I'm very, very hungry.
Oh, very, very hungry.
It's great to see Ahnessa here, so it's all good.
Thank you.
I hope our audience is starting to catch on to a trend that Griff is always complaining about something.
I always got some stuff going on, man.
So yeah, me and Ahnessa were having a really great conversation right before we got on the show, and maybe we'll touch on that a little bit later, but I wanted you to kind of introduce yourself and what's going on with you and the blog.
Okay. Well, as he said, my name is Ahnessa Black. I am a native of Indianapolis, I guess. We went to high school together, so that's really cool, Crispus Attucks. Currently, what I am working on, I have a blog. It is literally my name, AhnessaBlack.com.
That is so cool, by the way.
Thank you.
That is so hot.
And on there, it just literally has everything that I believe encompasses who I am. So there's natural healing, so things such as herbalism, because I am currently, a budding herbalist working on my education and my well-versing in natural medicines, natural skincares, different things like that. There's also a part about financial advisement. I am not a certified financial planner, but I do think I am great with money. So hit me up or go on there and use my budget sheet. There's also a bunch of information regarding how to and whatnot. So realistically, you might not even have to reach out to me, but you can. I also blog, and so what that kind of encompasses is everything that's kind of going on in my life as I grow through it. I take everything good, bad, negative, positive, whatever as a lesson, and I do my best to express it through words to better understand it. It's kind of like my way of growing is what I really just believe it to be. So yeah. Also, I'm into community development. As I said, I told them earlier I work at the library, and I'm doing outreach and whatnot. So that's something that's really big to me, just kind of working in my community to kind of better create a close-knit environment. So that's me.
Okay.
I think that was enough.
Oh yeah, you touched on so many great things, and your blog is really interesting because they're really quick reads. They're very personal. You can tell that it's very authentic.
Thank you.
And because it's certain times when you read something, it's I'm reading something of da 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 da. But with you, it's you're actively having that conversation with your reader, and like you said, it's a blog that details experiences and growth. And so the first thing that you mentioned was herbalism and natural healing.
Yes.
I totally agree with you. And one of your things, let me pull up a quote. You were talking about the pharmaceutical industry. Let's see. I don't even need to pull the direct quote, really, honestly, because I have some saved in here. Yeah. But you were saying that you couldn't even swallow a pill by the time you were 16.
Man.
And I feel you on that. And I suffer from migraines every now and again. Yeah. I would say 7 or 8 a year. Yeah. But when they are debilitating, and whenever I try to take Tylenol or ibuprofen or something like that, it just makes it worse.
Yeah.
So can you kind of talk about the grip that the pharmaceutical industry not just has on the wallets, but on our minds, thinking that, I can just take a pill and it's going to take care of my problems.
Yeah. So, okay. The thing about pharmaceuticals are, they are just quick fixes.
Yeah.
So they kind of, more than anything, band-aid your issue rather than honestly reaching the depth of the actual problem. Right. So it's kind of if you were to take, as you said, you have a migraine, so you go and take some medicine, and literally, what do they say? They say take so many within a certain amount of time, because you're going to have to keep taking it to ultimately actually either fix or consistently band-aid that problem. So the pharmaceutical issue, or the industry, I believe, what it is that they have on our mental is literally that if I have a problem, convenience, I can just go down to this drugstore, I can purchase this, I can take it, I'll be good. Not realizing, within that entire situation, it's kind of like bondaging you to, okay, but you can't take you can't drink while you do this, you can't like, it controls you still. You know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
So literally, no. But when you have like a migraine or any other type of like bodily issue, there's literally something, deeper down. Realistically, what I would even pinpoint a migraine to is how often we're looking at a screen, how often we are not necessarily getting the adequate amount of sleep that we technically need. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think that the reason why I'm so into natural healing is because realistically it requires that we get to the root of the issue, and that is the fact that we are not paying attention to our bodies.
Yeah.
And so like when you are looking at an external medicine to get you through it, or like something that is chemically processed and created to get your insides taken care of, you're still not paying attention to your body. And you're literally just honestly creating even more issues. Because what are there? There's literally like so many things that tell you, hey, this could cause something else. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, no, I'd prefer to just kind of like go to the root of the issue, handle that, and more than likely you're through with that.
Definitely proactive wellness is something that we don't prioritize in this country because of our just the consumerism and the convenience lifestyle that we have in this country. I'm trying to get into fixing my diet. I've been listening to a lot of nutritionists, and the funny thing about when even getting into that type of a discipline is you're going to hear so many conflicting narratives, and you're going to hear so many conflicting this guy says that sugars are bad. It's like, oh no, sugars are good, but it's this type of sugars, you have to avoid. And then some people will talk crap about certain fruits, like, oh, go with the vegetable route. And, there's so many different things to go on. And what I like about what you do is like you said, you're not like a certified professional. Don't sue me if you take my advice and it doesn't work out. Like I said, you have like this like a real conversation. And I know you and I, Griff, we were talking about diets and things like that nature.
Yeah, I'm huge into like eating well and getting the foods that work for you. And, as a sign of proactive wellness, not every, like, even to the point of like certain fruits are good for you and certain fruits aren't good for you. It's always important to think about what is your goal, what's your intention. Like, that's huge because like depending on what you need, strawberries might not be good for your diet. But if you're just trying to have like a mediumly good diet and still enjoy your food, then throw some strawberries on everything.
Yeah.
And so when I think about like eating well and living well proactively, I don't always do everything that's best for me, but I do have like a standard that's good enough.
Yeah. Because I think it's super important, honestly, a fact that we are able to know, that we can all attest to. We have one life, right? Like, your true beliefs past that is something else, but we have one life. And I personally I'm not super big on living such a restricted life that I'm not happy. So it's like something that is so important is just moderation. Like, indulging is like, once again, going against your body. And so just like it's like paying attention to it, though I know, hey, I don't necessarily need this fruit or vegetable, but at the same time I enjoy it. There's nothing wrong with kind of going in and eating it in moderation. That's literally, I guess, all that I'm trying to say is just paying attention to how much, you take in.
Yeah, that old adage, everything in moderation, for sure. Even some of those guilty pleasures that you like, you just can't constantly indulge. That's like the big thing. And we love indulging in American society.
We do.
nothing more American than some good old indulgence. But you said something too where it's like you just said you only have one life, and you were talking about in a blog post that you realize that it's yours, especially trying to realize God's plan for you. I have a quick question about that though, because I understand where you're coming from. Like, you have to work God's message and what he wants for you. But the way I perceive my life, like I told you throughout college, it was like a real state of isolation for me. Not that I was isolating myself from people, but I wasn't introducing myself to new things.
Yeah.
I was trying to focus on who I was. And what I learned is that I'm no better than anybody other, like any other person. And that if I'm going to let God work through me, then it's not my life anymore. I'm trying to like let his work just flow through me. And I want to like talk to you like I can talk to anybody, you know? And that's why I want to facilitate conversations on this show that, you know, reach the masses in a unifying dialogue, because I just don't look at my life like it's mine anymore, because we start to get trapped in that selfish paradigm, which is another aspect of American society that we're kind of taught, just to be always thinking introspectively instead of like with a broader perspective. So when you say that your life is yours, are you reclaiming it from other people that had control over you, or like what are you kind of saying there?
So yes.
Okay, that's what I thought you meant.
Yeah. So basically, when I say that this life is mine, I am ultimately saying that what I cannot do is wake up every day wondering how I can make you comfortable, wondering how I can say a certain something that is tasteful to one person, and then once again ensuring it's tasteful to another. In all reality, the way I view it is, if you choose to be around me, you choose to be around who I am in totality. So it's kind of like, if you know this is how Ahnessa is, if you feel like I'm more aggressive, if you feel like I'm, you know, more arrogant, or whatever it is that you may think of me, I don't really take too much time wondering what other people feel about me. But like, if that's how you feel, then you choose to be around me still, then that's what you are, you know, allowing into your environment. So that's pretty much what it is that I meant regarding that. But as far as your mentioning of like, you don't feel as if this, you know, this life is yours anymore, as far as like you've handed it over to God, I like that. I think I too am working on relinquishing my control in that aspect, so that God is able to, you know, flow through me. And I truly believe in order for that to even happen, I need to, of course, relinquish control, but there's so many workings within myself that I have to go through, which really just means like clearing my energy of others, you know what I'm saying? Because even still, you don't realize it, but there is forms of manipulation within your life, and it really stems from your upbringing. Like, you have certain things that your parents taught you that kind of keep you in a mode of control against God's will. You know what I'm saying?
We're all born in inequity. Yeah.
So I think that's kind of what it is that I'm also trying to like work through, is what was I taught that I truly believe today?
That's the What Do You Know show. This show is all about questioning, what do you know?
Yeah.
Do you think you know it because someone told you, or is it something that you really know?
And that is something that you literally need. Like, if I'm ever talking to somebody and they are giving me like their spiel on why they think a certain way, and I'm like, okay, so why do you feel that way? And they're like, well, it's just wrong, or this, that, and the third. I'm like, okay, well, what's wrong? Or is that something you were taught? Or is that just something that you came up with and you were like, you know what, this is how I feel. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And mostly it's something that you were told. And that honestly also is me trying to get out of anything structured, you know, where like there's so many rules and boundaries that it's like, you can't do this because you believe in it. It's like, no. Yeah. I believe in this, and this is why I do this. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, absolutely.
It's funny you say that, because when I think about myself, I think about like the way that people describe me as like sort of this foundation. I think about all the things that I believe and all the things that I think I know, all the things I think I know. And there are so many things where people will ask me, Aaron, why is it that you do things this particular way? And I don't have an answer. It's like legit, just like instinct. Like it just is what I do. And I'm okay with that. I'm 100% like, I don't have an answer. And I don't know who taught me this, but it is me. And I mean, it seems to work for all the people around me. I'm like, yeah, Aaron he's got the foundation. He's the rock. And, you know,
the rock.
To some extent, I think it's okay to not have some of those answers. If you either don't know and you don't need to question it. But also it is like being open to how other people do things and how they think about things, and that's important. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with not knowing why you think or do a certain thing, but there's something wrong with what you're saying is with what you said, going with it is saying being open to other ideas. Because the minute that you're like, well, this is just what I do, I'm literally cutting everything, every connection I have to you. Like, okay, all right, that's cool. That's very close-minded, but you got it. You got it.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing with me. I need to know why I have to do things. I have to kind of disagree with you on that. Because for me, and this actually leads beautifully into the next thing I want to talk about, what you mentioned on your blog, which is why I like it so much. You were talking about how when you let go and you sit in stillness, Christians call it silent prayer, Buddhists call it meditation. There's all kinds of different words to describe that process of letting your thoughts just, because when you first sit down and do it, they're buzzing. They're still buzzing. But what you do is you just funnel them out. And I have like a good imagination. So what I tried to do is just focus on like a water dropping on a surface until that's the only thing I'm thinking about. And then I can start to take in those things properly. And then I can analyze like, no, I reacted good in that situation because if I would have acted inappropriately, then it wouldn't have been anything beneficial for other people, or I could have handled that situation better because I wasn't stepping outside of myself to think about what they were going through, just that constant state of self-reflection and asking God for that clarity. So, and that's when I also take that time. Like I said, I have to know why I do the things that I do, because I have to know that I'm acting with honor instead of acting out of that pride or that ego that we're trying to get away from.
Absolutely.
So what is you said sitting in stillness? How much is that? How much do you do that a day?
So actually, my mind races like so crazy all day, and I'm just like, I really wish that it didn't. I do, but at the same time, kind of like you, I have a really vivid imagination. So normally what I'll end up doing, this is what I'm trying to say. I personally take pride in, unfortunately, being busy. Like I enjoy like having my ideas, writing them down and trying to move forward with them. Like I really do enjoy that. And so when I finally take the time to sit still, it's normally, I want to prioritize it better, but it's normally after I've realized, okay, there's a lot going on. You know what I'm saying? Once I've put myself, once again, not listening to myself and listening to my body, and put myself in things that kind of like suck the energy out of me so much so that I can't even really clearly acknowledge which one is mine. That's when I'm like, okay, close the door, let's sit down and just, sit here. And so what I normally do is like put on some like higher frequency music, and I'll just sit there and kind of, like you said, just let my mind just race, and I'll kind of like see what it is that I'm thinking about, because everything is intentional. You think about things and you feel like, oh, that's nothing, but it's literally your inner self like telling you something. You know what I'm saying?
Or trying to, but you can't get through because of the noise.
And so when I am able to kind of sit in silence, then that's when I'm hearing those more intentional thoughts and being able to once again move them over onto paper and move forward with that. So something that I mostly read a lot. So that's also a part of me being busy and being able to do something. It's kind of difficult for me to just sit still, I'm not going to lie. So when it is that I do want to kind of like also collect my thoughts, I'll sit and read. And so I'll read like pretty insightful books. And so there's this one book, it's called Why Walk When You Can Fly. And something that she says you should kind of like sit and say when you realize there's a lot going on is like, praise love for this moment and its perfection. And so that puts me in a still place to where I'm like, everything that's happening is supposed to happen, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
So
yeah, absolutely.
it's like, whether ego views it as positive or negative, it is.
That's right.
So,
that's absolutely correct. Yeah.
So that's, so I think I just do it all throughout the day. There's no day that I can really, or no time can really set to where I am just doing it consistently at like 30 minutes.
You
know
center yourself when you need to.
Yeah. Which is kind of bad. I would prefer to be more proactive, but yeah, I kind of do it when I need to.
Well, I think it's good that you've at least developed a habit to know when you need to recenter yourself, and that you're able to pretty much do it on the fly.
Yeah.
And that you can keep yourself being busy and not being overwhelmed with all the activities that you find yourself in.
That's true. Thank you.
Yeah, to all the people out there, I would definitely suggest implementing in your routine. I would say start slow, because it's not something very easy to do at all.
Yeah.
Because I mean, when I first started to do it, and this is actually a better thing. I was trying to teach a friend how to do it. And I sat with him to, because I ain't gonna name no names. But we were just sitting together, and my friend was like, 15 minutes into, was like, is there supposed to be some kind of change or something? I was like, no, not yet, not yet. I was like, because you're focusing too much on trying to get to like an enlightened state or something like that. It's not even about that. It's like we were saying, it's just filtering through all the noise that we encounter. Even when you're driving home, you're going to see 10, 15 different billboard ads. Yeah. You're going to listen to NPR, and they're going to be telling you stuff. Or the music that you're listening to, you're going to be thinking about things. And we're just in a constant state of like overdrive. Because our brain, our human essence is really being stripped away from us in the culture in which we live in. And like you said, like with the migraine thing earlier, if you're looking at screens too much or you're doing too much intensive labor, then you have to know when to, and that's all back to the health and wellness thing. That's why like I really enjoy like what you talk about and how you discuss things, because it's things that I've went through too, and things that I'm working on myself. And just, I think that the best thing you can take away from meditation is that you'll get to know yourself better, because the scriptures tell us, know thyself. Absolutely. And that's just the biggest thing I can tell anybody out there listening. It's like, well, what do you know about yourself? If you start to maybe reflect on things just in your own personal, and you don't, and that's the cool thing too. It's like we start to rely on other people. And like you said about your life being yours again, it's like, I feel like, if I'm going somewhere, I have to go and get somebody's opinion about it. Tell me what to do, instead of seeking those answers in God and just within yourself. And that's another thing too. I mean, I'm kind of jumping from here to there, because you make me think about so many things. When you said some things, life, it just is. There's a really interesting lecture that I can text you if you're interested. It's by this psychologist, Jordan Peterson, and he was talking about the difference between tragedy and evil. Because, I mean, as Christians, we both understand kind of what evil is and how it's a spiritual battle that we go through. But we have to be able to accept tragedy, because tragic things are going to happen, and it is what it is. But knowing that difference, because if I believe that the maliciousness and people, they act on other people, that's what's evil. But if, like, your dad dies, or you got in a car accident, it was messed up, it's like that was a tragic thing that happened. You can't blame yourself. You can't rescind back into depressive state of nature. You just sometimes you have to accept things, and you have to accept the good too. Because sometimes, and this is a really messed up part about our society, is that we can't even accept the good things that are happening to us. We can't recognize the good people in our lives. That
sucks very much. So I agree with learning the difference, or separating the difference between tragedy and evil. It's difficult to do, mostly because a lot of it is literally just being acted on emotion, you know what I'm saying, or responded by emotion. So, I mean, I can understand, when a tragedy happens, someone passes away, you're kind of like, I just don't know what to believe anymore, or I can't believe this happened, or even honestly feeling victimized, you know what I'm saying? Like, I get it, but something I'm really big on is taking a look at it and flipping it into, I guess, my favor, in the sense that it's like, okay, but what all did they teach me? And this is kind of
Yes.
this is gonna sound kind of dark, but
No,
like
you're so right.
so when I was younger, you know, my mom passed away or whatever. I was pretty young, and I didn't realize like. Now I realize the effects that it had on me, but it hurt, you know. And so then, so many years down the line, my aunt passed away, but honestly, I felt more prepared for that passing away because I had, honestly, the preparation, but also the state that I was in, I was able to say, okay, let me be mindful of all the things that she tried to teach me, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Because
That's right.
of the fact that even though she's gone, you know, at this point it's been 8 years, there's so many things that to this day I am still like unraveling from what she said 8 years ago.
True.
So it's just like,
Yeah.
wow.
And
so
you know,
tragedy is there for you.
That's important for so many reasons, because when you think about like tragedy, it's kind of like when you think about any emotion, any human emotion, it's contagious, right? And so when people react to tragedy in a distraught and sort of erratic way, you know, they spread that to the person next to them. And, you know, then the whole communities are distraught and erratic and they can't recover from that. But you think about people being mindful and thinking about, you know, the lessons and trying to gain a feeling of hopefulness from tragedies. And then that spreads. And you think about like the difference between, you know, when bad things happen in your community, if everyone sort of bonds together and uplifting this as opposed to tearing each other down, the outcomes are so much better. So much better.
Yeah.
I want to coattail on what you were saying again. Like and this is going to sound weird, but let me explain. Like when my grandpa died, that was one of the best things that ever happened to me personally, because I was lucky enough to be because he had a stroke, like a really bad stroke, and he really couldn't do anything but like move his hands and kind of stuff like that. But I was able to like go to him. I was in Bloomington. I took like the late night bus to get there, and I was able, and like the whole family was there. But I was I was a sophomore in college, and I told him, I was like, "Hey, Grandpa, like I know you can hear me. You know, you can let go now because like I'm gonna be the man for my family that you don't have to worry anymore." But and he actually ended up passing that night. Yeah. And so on my way back home to Bloomington, I was just thinking about how I had no idea like who I was. I didn't know how to be a man. I didn't know how to assume that responsibility, that because like I didn't think to say that. It kind of just came out. Yeah. And just sitting, like I got back like 2 or 3 in the morning, just no one was out. I was just looking at the moon, and God was just kind of like making that like, that this is your mission now. You have to step up and not be so egotistical, and you have to start caring about other people and looking out and being the man that you have to be, because Grandpa isn't here no more. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And it's honestly that's all. So what I believe is at that moment, in that tragic moment, you were in a vulnerable state to where you relinquished enough control to where God was able to speak through you.
Yeah,
so that
absolutely.
was super beautiful, and that's why you were like, it just happened. You know what I'm saying? Like it was just stated. And then similar to what you were saying, as far as when something happens in a community, whether people all kind of like bond together or you feel it, it's literally just energy. And I believe that's all life is. It's like energy, and what you have to pay attention to is what pulls you in the space to where you feel like this is where I'm supposed to be. Yeah. So you energetically were pulled then, you know, to sitting in nature, you know, looking at the moon, just, you know, you were taken back to your higher self.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, you were taken away, and that's what happens when like tragedy hits us. You know what I'm saying? It puts us in a vulnerable, open space, and that's why you should try to twist it to your advantage, because that is going to be the highest self of who you can be to move forward. Like we're very shadowed by our culture today. So yeah, I think that's really good, and I think that's also the positivity in tragedy.
Absolutely, yeah. Like you said, just on the way I described it, you know exactly what happened, because it just, I don't even know how long I was just sitting there, it wasn't because I used to have a lot of doubt. I had a lot of that mirror reflection of myself, like, oh well, what did they think of me? How do I portray myself and all that? But after that happened to me, like you said, I released all the control. I didn't, moving forward from that, every day started to get really long for me. Because days before that seemed really short.
Yeah.
Just, I was just doing this all tweeting or whatever, like reading the news or something like that. But days became really long for me because I just started to watch myself and to see all the things that like I honestly hated about myself just kind of fade away. And I started to realize what love is. It just is that absence of hate and that doubt.
That's the other thing, actually. You started paying attention to the days and whatnot. It's because you were able to be present. That's the other thing. Like, I think as far as our minds racing and kind of just days dragging and us just feeling so disconnected, it's literally because we are too focused on the future or tomorrow or whatever. And it's like, that's of no use to you. And not only that, like, the only thing you should focus on is today, because this is the only thing that you know of. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need to relinquish all control of the possibility of being able to manipulate tomorrow. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
Like, literally just accept what is, and that to me is how it is that you get back to your higher self, because that, you know, back in the day, that's all you had anyways. It's like today, you know, so like, why?
Absolutely.
You know, what's changed? And I think that's something that we need to do, is try to get back to who we were placed here to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're too busy accepting what is fed to us rather than paying attention to
Then
self.
asking, what do you know? All right, well, Griff, what do you have to say about that?
On the spot right after the thing. Dude, I'm all about being present. I don't know if it was like one of my trips in college, but there.
Oh, you're talking about vacationing, right?
Yeah. One of my trips in college.
We're talking about for the kids.
It allowed me to be vulnerable in a way that I'm not normally, like, ever.
Yeah.
And it made me realize, like, how guarded I am of, like, my own feelings.
Yeah.
And it put me, it put me in a state to, like, face myself.
Oof.
And, like, really, ask the hard questions, like, why is it that even though I put up this front that I'm really hard, like I'm a African American male, I can walk around wherever. I put up this front that I'm really hard, but inside I'm actually really afraid to walk around by myself, in the dark. Questions like that. Yeah. And so, after a few of those trips, vacations.
Those vacations,
I became more accepting of myself, more accepting of my feelings. And actually, I got to answer some of the questions that, like I mentioned before, like, there's some things I feel that I don't know why I feel that way. I actually answered a lot of those questions. So, for example, like, why is it okay for a man to cry? And it's because, all humans have emotions, and they should be able to display the full range of the emotions that they feel in order to connect to other people. And so, I've become more empathetic. I've become more present in myself and my outward connection to other people. So, I agree that it is useless to think about, like, manipulating tomorrow, as you said. But I don't think it is. I don't think it's a bad idea to just have, like, that sort of nugget for things to come. Like, having hope is important. Having a present sense of things to come, if you will. I think that's important to have, because otherwise you are just, like, living for the day, like YOLO. Like, it's only right now, right here. And I think that without a certain sense of maybe not urgency, but a certain sense of value that isn't your own, that can be really, really dangerous and really reckless. So sort of that balance again.
And the thing about being present, one of the biggest things I've come to know is that the future and the past, they're just mere illusions. Yeah. You have to live for today. And like you were saying, it's not about manipulation. It's about manifestation. It's about when you work hard, like, because we got the and Co line going. Podcast is coming up. My book is coming. There's so many things that I anticipate happening in the future. It's because, for the simple fact, I'm working towards it today. Right now. And I'm not just, I hope great things happen for me. Yeah. And like, even like with the marriage and things of that nature, when I have, like, a wife and the children, I have to be man enough for that. I have to be able to be a father before I start trying to look around for a chick, because it's just not going to be the order of things if I try to rush into it before I'm not ready.
Yeah.
Like this house is a great first step because I feel like if you're going to have a family, you should have a house, you know? So, and like a good job and just things of that nature. I'm trying to analyze like if this is the goal that I want to reach, what do I have to do right now to manifest that in the future and not expect someone to just come down and beautiful lady. Like I have to work for that.
Yeah.
Like, I have to constantly, and then when I get it, I have to keep working on it, you know, to make sure it doesn't dissolve.
Yeah, that's very true. I agree with that.
Yeah. But, and that's cool because here's actually, I do have a quote I wanted to read to you. There's so much about myself that I've yet to learn or see. I'm working to shed myself from this third dimensional, egotistic view of myself.
Whoa, that's big.
Yeah, it's fairly difficult as you must detach yourself. That's kind of embraces like what we were talking about in this whole conversation with the ego.
Yeah.
But another, like one of the things I wanted to highlight there is because we keep talking about looking inward, but you're talking about seeing things. What are some things that you want to see or that you feel like you haven't saw yet?
So when I say see, I'm literally still speaking inward. I believe, once again, so the thing about the ego is it is here to allow us to experience life. And so when you focus on what is right in front of you, sometimes you miss the bigger picture. And so the bigger picture is inside of you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So that is the seeing that I am looking for. I'm looking for who I am as a loving being. You know what I'm saying? Similar to Aaron, how he said there was a point in time where he felt like he just had to be this strong, like, you know, figure. I don't know where I got it from, but I felt the same.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
I was very like, and I still to an extent am less guarded, more intentional, more aware. But ultimately, there was a point in time where I was very like, you can't hurt me. You know what I'm saying? Like, just rough, just to a point mean, you know?
Yeah.
And so as I've shed that, that 3D, as I tend or continue to shed it, I see myself as a lighter being. I am more accepting of a lot of things. I am more open, understanding, empathic, like all of that, you know what I'm saying? And I feel as if that's just who I was placed here to be, you know what I'm saying? So I guess when I say that, I'm literally just wanting to be able to become more aware of the gifts that I have been given, and how they can kind of spread amongst other people and, you know, touch others, and the only way to do that is by love, you know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
That's real.
So yeah, that's what it is.
And you know, I'm so glad you answered that in the way you did. And I asked that for a particular reason because I know a lot of my friends, and I'm not, like I said, I'm not going to name names or anything like that, but they constantly seek like validation in the real world, or like, oh, I gotta go. I gotta see other countries. I gotta experience other cultures. I gotta do this and that. And it's like, but that's where I'm at. I'm on the same wavelength with you. It's like, well, is it what you desire? Like, is if you really go and see all these things that you want to go and see, how much will you change?
Yeah.
You know, if you constantly like look inward, then you're gonna, like you said, see a lot more about yourself, and really, and that's how I feel too about living with love, because that's how God operates in the world. The Satan wants you to operate in hatred.
Yeah.
He wants you to, and like y'all were talking about, I was just jealous. I was jealous of other people. Like I lied a lot to fake, like make this image of myself that wasn't me. Constantly feeling like, just lesser than.
Yeah.
And I had to overcome that because, and like I said, I told y'all the night in which it happened for me. And then like the rest of my college experience, like those next 2 years, it was just such a beautiful thing because college really gets you ready for the real world in a lot of ways. and you can go down some crazy paths, and you get ready for the crazy world.
A lot of vacations.
Yeah, a lot of vacations and stuff like that. Or like, you know, you get into a lot of sex, or you can get into a lot of drugs and parties and just all kinds of bad stuff. Or you can take a better route with college and like work with your professors, work with clubs on campus. With me, like I was just focusing on myself. So yeah, if anyone's out there getting ready for college, consider all of the extracurriculars. We were actually touching on that a little bit earlier.
Yeah.
Before we move on, though, I want to kind of touch on 2 points. First, to your point about sort of people feeling the need to travel and see other things.
Yeah.
It's sort of connected to college in a sense, right? I don't think that it's bad to want to see other things for the simple fact that some people just need a different experience to get them in scope of even being able to be introspective and look into themselves. College might not be that thing.
Yeah.
Like for you it was, right? And for me it was. But for some people they might need to be in a totally in a space that's totally displaced from everything they've ever known, if that makes any sense. That's kind of what cultural shock is you don't know what the language is, you don't know how people are interacting with each other, you don't know like why certain colors are up and why certain people are acting in certain ways. And so, you know, for some people it's just, oh, we're having fun in a different country. But for some people it really makes them take a step back and think, you know, what do I know about the world? And what do I know about myself? Yeah. And so I wouldn't dissuade travel as a means of just having a different experience and being able to generate new thoughts, because I think that's super important.
You know, you're absolutely right. I think you can attest to this. When you like read books, though, you can travel to a different time. Sure. You can travel to. You can literally peer into someone's own vision. You can experience. Absolutely. Yeah. And so that's how I. Feel that. Yeah.
But it works for you. And
that's right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, bro. I hear what you're saying. There are different strokes for different folks. Styles. I got you. Yeah.
Not everybody can read words and feel differently about themselves and about the world around them. Some people need to be thrown in. Yeah. You know, some people need to get in the pool before they learn how to swim.
Yeah.
Okay.
I agree with that. I definitely do. I just think that if you are that person that needs to go elsewhere to, you know, become more introspective, I encourage first asking yourself, what are you looking for?
Yeah.
Because a lot of people believe that by them leaving a certain environment, things are just going to like change, when in all reality, honestly, truly, you're the issue.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying? Like,
absolutely.
And I'm gonna choose not to say issue and more so say you are the thing that you are trying to better understand and kind of just essentially, even if you run away, you're not really running away from the issue. It's gonna follow you. That's absolutely what I'm saying. But I do agree. Sometimes you need to engulf yourself in it and then something in your head's gonna click, but at the same time, like, be aware of why. Be aware of your why, 100%. Realistically. Yeah.
My second point was, Ahnessa, you mentioned that the ego is there for a reason. And you sort of alluded to the fact that you utilize your ego in order to understand yourself, even as you shed away the things surrounding your ego and to become a lighter person and a person of love. And I think that's super interesting because literally just before I rolled over here, I was thinking about all the things that make us who we are and how so many of those things really aren't important. It's really not a fun thing to think about at all. But I mean, the ego is sort of like the very last barrier in that wall of things, right? You can shed away, you know, your job, and you can shed away your culture, and you can shed away your race and your sex, and you could shed away your memories and shed away like the ability to think about and, you know, pull in senses of like all this stuff. Yeah. And at the very last wall is that ego, that mysterious self. And if you shed that away, you know, what do you get to? I always think about Mike Tyson now when I think about like shedding the ego and how he talks about his experience doing DMT and realizing that who he was, it really didn't matter in the grand scheme of things. And so, you know, I kind of wanted to ask you, but now I just kind of want to leave it out there as thinking about as you start to enjoy who you are and being a lighter being, lighter than you were before, what does that experience feel and look like for the people that you love once you decide to shed that ego and become even lighter than you are now?
That's actually that's the whole point about being like a born again Christian, because what you learn is that you was preaching, bro. Because when you step away from the ego, you realize that we're all connected.
Yeah,
And we all come from the same thing. That's why no one's better than anybody else. But like you said, also is that. I would define it as like it's that fallen state. Instead of being in that upper state, you're falling away from God, and that's when the ego and the pride create those barriers around like who you are, and they won't let you love your neighbor. They won't let you love your enemy. They won't let you embrace your enemy. You know, because I think the only way to do that is through love and being truthful and honest. And if you haven't seen the Mike Tyson video, go check it out on the YouTube.
Check it out.
Yeah. So I actually have an interesting question for you, Ahnessa. What is happiness?
Happiness?
Oof.
Yep.
Oof. That's okay. Such a simple question, but
It is a simple question.
it's a lot. Happiness. Let me think. I'm gonna think of what I happiness to me will probably be what I could envision it as is being. So just being present, being my authentic self, walking in who I am without any thought of who is around me, not being concerned with others' opinions, others' ideas. Of course, being able to collaborate with other people. So being around other energies and other people who also have this this vibe of I just choose to be. I'm not concerned with the structure of what it is or the realm of having to be a certain way. You get what I'm saying? So like I want to use the word free and not the word freedom, because freedom ain't free. So
I like that.
I was gonna ask you next, but I can't because
You shouldn't.
No, I'm about to say I can't because this is like I don't know if you've seen it, but we're doing discussions on vocabulary and words and things of that nature, and so we're kind of previewing content here.
Okay.
Because I want to do a video on happiness. What you described to me, because I was just listening to what you were saying. You were describing peace of mind.
Yeah.
You weren't describing happiness. I view happiness as like if you want to seek happiness, you're seeking a drug. You're seeking dopamine. You're seeking a codependent relationship with something.
Yeah.
And if the object of what makes you happy is taken away from you, what's the side effect?
Yeah.
You become depressed.
Yeah.
And what you were describing to me is how I understand peace, because and that's the thing about how we use language. I feel like inappropriately sometimes. We're taught the cultural things like, oh, happy. Like when you think of happiness, you think, oh, I would rather be happy than sad. But when you start to depend on things to make you happy, that's going to feed your ego
That's
eventually.
true. That is very true.
Answer. Now I need to answer.
No, now you're going to answer.
Now I need to answer.
But that's like a short preview, because that kind of to me, and that's why I asked, and we'll be getting much more deeper into it. But what's your little...
I love both of your answers, first of all.
Aww.
And I think there's like bits and pieces of both. I'm going to get a little sciencey.
Go ahead.
So when I think of happiness, it's like a hot state, right? There's some dude, whatever, I don't know his name. I don't read, I just listen to radio and stuff. But he describes like people can be in either a hot state or a cold state. And when you're in a cold state, you can sort of like think about who you are and what you're doing, and you can sort of state your intentions. And when you're in hot state, you're just feeling and you're just reacting. And so I think of happiness as a hot state, and similar to sadness is also kind of a hot state, but it's a hot state where again, like that dopamine is going, things are like high energy, and it really is a matter of like codependence on something. There is some stimuli that is making you react in a way you really like you're really feeling it. And so when I think about the happy times in my life, this is the only part I disagree with you. They are moments that I didn't expect, that I really, really enjoy. And like, I can remember like almost all the happy moments that I've had in my life in like the last 4 or 5 years because they were so good.
Yeah, they're so good.
They were so good. And it's
Yeah.
like, they like etched into my brain. And that was awesome, right? And those are moments that like I can pull myself out of sad states, or I can pull myself out of like feeling depressed, or you know, I can be intentional about life because I've had happy moments. So definitely things you want again, but I would disagree that you know, because you're happy, that you're the side effect of not being happy anymore is that you're like automatically sad, or that you're depressed, or something along those lines. Because when I think about like the happiest moments of my life, living in that house with you
I know.
and Breeze and Keenan, like that was awesome.
Yeah.
And like just those pure happy moments, when they were done, it was like, that was nice. But it wasn't like, oh, I need that again. It was just like, that was awesome. And I will never, like, it was legit like, and I'll never forget that. Happy moments. Awesome.
Happy moments.
Happy
are
moments.
awesome.
So happiness is just, it really is. It's a state, you know, in itself. It is a state that humans can achieve. And then, you know, as we go in and out of happiness, we can choose to or choose not to remember those moments that we were able to achieve that state of happiness.
Just the way I like reflect on things, like you were just talking about,
Yeah.
I enjoy them.
Yeah.
But they didn't make me happy, because if it made me happy, then like, because you're talking about like, and that's why you gave a perfect example of all of us living at the house together. It was like, well, now all y'all are gone out of my life. Like, we don't have that state anymore. And even on the last show, you were talking about how if you could have like one more year like that.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about. It's like we start to neglect the other bonds that we could create and have. You can enjoy times with other people too.
Nonsense.
No, I'm just saying, like,
Yeah, no.
not well. Okay,
I'm calling malarkey on that though.
What are you, Joe Biden?
Yeah.
It's a bunch of malarkey.
I mean, I don't necessarily think that. So living in the house, for example, living in the house, that state in itself wasn't happiness, but there were very specific moments throughout that year where the energy, you know, it's kind of like when you're in church and, you know, something happens and the energy lifts everyone in that moment. In that moment, we collectively achieve happiness. It's kind of like that. It's a state that we codependently reach together.
White people don't have church like that.
Yeah, whatever.
Our church is hella peaceful and quiet.
Hug your neighbor.
I don't know if someone has like had the feeling of like catching the Holy Ghost. I would compare happiness to like that you reach a state and you're in it, and then once the collective energy goes down, you fall out of that state.
Yeah.
And you just have that memory. But, you know, like to your point, I haven't neglected to make new friendships and meet new people. And again, like I don't try to reach happiness, but I do.
People tend to
awesome.
though. And this is why we're perfect like co-hosts, because I'm going to give you like my opinion, and it's going to be something that's like really different, I think, from a lot of people.
Oh yeah.
And that's why, and it's just to have a conversation, like, because people may not think about what do they know about happiness, you know. That's all it is.
But yeah, I would say.
So then, what's the middle ground between happiness and sadness?
Why do you think there's a middle ground?
Because what you're saying is that it's essentially happiness is a highlight, right?
Yeah.
And then sadness is the low light, technically, you know, right?
That's what you're saying.
So you would prefer to be a sadness?
No,
like,
what I'm saying is I don't believe happy and sad are on two ends of a spectrum.
Okay, so what's your spectrum?
What I'm saying is that so back to the hot cold, like you can be in a reactive state where you feel things strongly, and then you can be in a state where you're able to clearly think about things without being affected by those emotions. So that's just cold, right? But like you can be hot and you can be happy, or you can be sad, and that's still like reacting, having those feelings, but they aren't necessarily the opposite. I can switch from happy to sad. And that'd be really crazy, but I could do it, or I could switch to.
That's what we call bipolarism.
Excited,
there's a name for that.
Or I could be, or I could be in a state where I am in control of my feelings, and I can clearly think through decisions without those emotions affecting me, right? And I don't know what you would call that exactly.
Peace.
But maybe, yeah,
so,
maybe it is.
And I was gonna say, so you say that what I described was peace, and I guess it would be because I view happiness and sadness as a coin as well.
Yeah.
Like, so to me, I would like to be in a state of what I could view as solemn and happy and, just, and I envision it as peaceful because what I see happiness and sadness as are experiences that then increase and enhance, like push towards my growth. So I view those because I do understand that the technicality of, certain moments are based on my perception of how they made me feel.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, like, I guess that's why my middle ground state is peace or happiness because I would prefer what I view as more of a positive light to be what I bask in. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with that.
So so I think that's why I was asking, like, what's your middle ground? Because what state are you comfortable being in day in and day out? Like, if you never had lower highlights.
If I had to choose a middle ground, then it would be the lack. I mean, if I had to say what a middle ground was, then it would be the lack of feeling. And
Exactly.
I have achieved that as well.
Okay.
I've achieved
You would prefer
complete
not to feel.
neutralism. I'm not
Yes.
saying I would prefer that.
I would.
I'm not saying I'd prefer that at all. If you say a coin, right?
Right.
And I see sort of a wheel, right? And at the middle, there's sort
said a wheel.
of the color white. And you go out and you get orange and you go around the circle and you have different colors. That's how I view emotion. And then if you want to get real complicated, you could blow that mug in 3D and start going in different directions.
Let
and
me
that's too
address it.
weird.
Yeah, you started to go. You filibuster Biden.
Man, whatever.
Listen,
about these
let
things.
me say why I would rather not feel because
Okay.
I believe in the spiritual battle, and I believe that the difference between a soul and a spirit are the things like the thoughts that we have. Those are spirits coming within our body that get in front of our soul. The ego, the pride, happiness and sadness, all the emotions like we were talking about earlier in the show about maybe other people. You were saying that they're infectious.
Yeah.
That's because you're letting someone else's spirit come up into your soul. Or not even come into your soul, but come into your physical body, and it gets in front of your soul. So what I understand about the best way to live life is to, like I said, truth and honesty and love. And then but when you have those things, you have peace. And there is no like feeling in peace. It wouldn't be peace if there was feelings involved with it.
I see that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like things become very simple. It's very black and white.
It's interesting, and I like it, but I also think it is its own oxymoron.
That's fine.
Yeah, like I do like it, and that would be my ideal state. But I also think like, how can you love and have peace? And,
Yeah.
and
Because
like,
love is just a way. It's just simply not hating. Hatred is what you feel. Love is how you live. It's not an oxymoron. Because then we start to have that conversation of what is love, because people have that remote romantic idea of what love is, because that's what society's taught us about what love is. But love is just simply not hating. I look at things
But then
simply
in
when
order
I'm at
to like
peace.
describe hate, you would have to then
Yeah.
like in order to you would have
There's
to
a million
describe
different
love.
ways. Well, no, there's a million different ways to hate.
because I can not love and not hate, and that's not loving.
No, you can't not love and not hate.
I
You
think
can't
like
not love and not hate. There is no. You either are one. You're going to be controlled by one God or the other. That's how I look at things.
I can have disdain for something. And
Right,
that's
and that would
not
be
hate.
hatred.
It's not hate.
It's a form.
I could not care. and
Hatred
that's
is a
not
million
hate.
things. Love is only one thing, which
but
is a
they're
way to
both
live.
you don't think that they're both feelings? You think that hate is the only feeling?
No, hate is a million different. There's hatred, jealousy, anger, resentment, lust, all kinds of
So
different ways to
apathy
hate
is
people.
hate.
Oh yeah, anything that is negative is a form of hatred, in my opinion.
I think, isn't apathy like neutral, like not caring? How
You're
is that?
apathetic is you're disdainful. Apathetic is looking at something like, tuh.
No.
Yeah, it is.
So
Apathy,
then
yeah.
here's my question: when
Yeah.
you say, because you agreed with wanting to, I guess, know yourself as a loving being, what does
Yeah.
that look like to you then?
Oh, it just looks like the light, because really that casts all the doubt away. To live with love, like, because for instance, if you were to accept that you could love your friend and your mom, but then hate your enemy, when you could love your enemy and try to bring them into your fold and maybe teach them why what they thought was wrong, or because then you're just creating more division. When you think that you can live with love and with hate. I don't think that you can live life like with two heads, with two gods. You really can't.
But the thing about it is that when you say you love like your neighbor and bring them in and teach them whatever, that then kind of creates or expresses that love is a feeling, because then you feel or believe that your way is I don't want to say superior, but the right way, so to speak.
Well,
because in all reality, and I mean, it's your opinion, so
no, it's not my way though.
Yeah.
Like I didn't just come up with it. It's God's way. That's how I look at it.
So, okay, so then, because the way I see it is like each person's individual.
Sure.
We all have a different. Of course, we know we all have a different path and walk with God, with our God, whatever. So I guess my question then is, does it then make you judgmental if you see them walking in a light that's not the way that you know to be, because you know the word of God is up for interpretation, realistically.
Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it is, yeah.
And so, is that then you being judgmental?
No, Christians, if we're going to, because we do it with love, if we see something that someone is doing is wrong and is hurting themselves, like what we've been talking about this whole time is stepping away from ego, step away from pride and all those things. We do that out of love. We don't do that out of hatred. And what we know about the right way to live is that it's the only way that you're going to be able to love your enemy. Because like neighbor and the friends and stuff like that starts to get easy. But when you are confronted with someone who off the bat is showing hatred towards you, you have to respond to that with love. You cannot be controlled by that emotion that they're putting on you. And that's why, like when you said that emotion is contagious, it's hot.
So to my point,
we're gonna have to do a part 2, man. Because it's already over an hour.
We might have to.
Go
but
ahead.
Just quickly to the point of like apathy, which is the lack of feeling. If someone approaches you with apathy, which is neither love nor hate, by definition, it is neither.
Right. And then you'd be like, like I could care less. Basically, is apathy.
No, that is not apathy. Apathy is I don't care. It's not I could care less. It's I don't care. There is no left or right. There's okay. How do you feel about frogs? Don't have an opinion about frogs. I don't have an opinion.
Why wouldn't you love frogs?
So is that what you were saying? Because
nothing is not. It's not up for debate with me. It's like if you want to do that, frogs are an essential part of the ecosystem. If you take frogs out the world, you're going to disrupt all kinds of ecosystems.
And I can agree with you and still not have an opinion about frogs.
That's fine. We're not the same person, baby. You're not Christian. Anyway, I want to give you just like a last minute or two, kind of just to tell everybody like where to find you and where to get the blog and things like that. So take it away.
Well, thank you. So also thank you for having me.
It was fun. It was really fun.
So my blog again is www.ahnessablack.com. I hope you spell it out because it's trivial to some.
I'll put the link in the box.
Okay.
And, yeah.
Thank you. And then my Instagram is Ahnessa Black. And then my Twitter is Melinda B. But I think Instagram's probably more fun. So yeah, come find me.
Awesome. And I also want to quickly say the and Co apparel, you can see it on the table. Go and shop with us. So one of my partner Brian and I. Anyway, another episode is in the bag, Griff. This has been the What Do You Know show. Always question, what do you know?
That was awesome.
Thank you. It was really good. I definitely enjoyed it.
We gotta have a whole episode about love and hate. And we have to play Casey Veggie's song. Love and hate is the same thing.